Good morning, everybody. We continue our final week of the Pigskin Preview. We go back to the Nick 10, and we go over to Hononegah over there at Roscoe. And with us right now, we have head football coach Brian Zimmerman. And, Coach, thanks for being on today. And are you getting ready for that first year as the head coach all by yourself?
Yeah, certainly. We're excited. We've had a great summer camp, so we're ready to get going.
You know, we talked to a lot of new coaches, and we talk about trying to, change cultures, things like that. Obviously, you don't have to do those kind of things. You've been in the program for a while, and it's been a great program. So there's some familiarity there. But when you get into the head coach role now, is there anything that you look at, you say, boy, I wish we could do this a little bit differently? Or is it one of those things where you just say, boy, if it's don't broken, don't fix it?
Well, my philosophy is a little bit of both. Like you said, I've been in the program for 23 years now, and I've had an opportunity to play and coach under a couple of different head coaches, and we've had a lot of success. So my goal, like you said, is if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. But there's certainly things that we can tweak and things that I want to see us improve on. Discipline's always a big thing, and holding our kids accountable, and they're wonderful with that. So, like I said, this summer I just couldn't believe the turnout that we had, and our numbers are good. So that's kind of how it starts.
Last year started out with a lot of distractions and things like that. Your kids still make the playoff, and now you can just concentrate on football this year. That's got to be kind of fun to get back to the basics again and not worry about all the other stuff that sometimes can cloud up a high school football season.
Yeah, we had, last year was very unfortunate with some distractions. And like you said, it was this summer, all that was behind us. And we've got a great group of kids right now. And so they're just unbelievable. I can't give them enough kudos for how hard they work and how hard they're working. And last night we had our scrimmage, our inter-squad scrimmage, a purple and gold game. And unfortunately, we got about 7 minutes into it, and they called it for lightning, and I couldn't believe the disappointment in our kids. I mean, they acted like they just lost a game. That opportunity taken away from them to get out there and get after it last night.
We can always count on a good set of running backs at Hononegah. So who are going to be the kids carrying the ball? Who's going to be that home run hitter that you have, and who's going to be that kid that's maybe grinding out those 2-yard carries over and over that seem to wear down the other defense?
Well, and I'm sure you've probably heard the hubbub so far. We have changed our offense up a little bit, so we're gonna look a little bit different than we have previously. We're getting a little bit out of that flex bone. So the big question everybody's asking us is, well, you're still going to run the ball? So absolutely, we've got a great set of running backs. Dallas Washington returns from last season. He was our tailback last season. Or a 3-back, and Christian Fossil, he is returning as well. He's a senior, and he's not a real big guy, but I tell you what, he packs a mean punch, and he's got wheels. So we love what we see out of both of them. So I think we'll be pretty solid in the backfield this season.
And I saw a little bit of your 7-7 on in DeKalb, and you have some quarterbacks too. You probably had a little bit of fight for that position this year, haven't you, Coach?
Well, a little bit. Last season, Dominic Bolano was a sophomore, and he came in and started, I believe, 6-7 games for us, and he does a great job. He's got great legs. He's not afraid. He's a wrestler as well, so he's not afraid to run the ball when he needs to. But he's great. I mean, again, what we're doing this season, throwing the ball, short yardage, completion passes, he's been great with that. So he's kind of our standout right now. But certainly we've got a couple other young men that are on his heels and are ready to play ball as well.
When you talk about changing the offense, it seems like that's almost been kind of a natural progression. Over the last probably, I'd say 4 or 5 years, the quarterback play from a throwing standpoint has seemed to be improving, each year there at Hononegah. Is it just a matter of trying to open up the offense a little bit more, maybe open up more running lanes, those kind of things?
For sure. Again, I like I said, I've been here a long time, and said we've been known as a run team, and as a former offensive lineman and line coach, I love that philosophy. But at the same time, we get into a position where we need to throw the ball, and I don't know that we spend a lot of time in practice, believe it or not. We've got 7-7s in practice built in, and we throw the ball in practice. But it seems like, we get into a groove in the game and we run it. Whereas now I think we're going to have an opportunity to, get the short completion passes that will open up our run game. So I think they're going to complement each other. I think that, like you said, is a natural progression that we needed to get to. Especially, we want to go as deep far as we can in the playoffs, and we see teams that they'll just stack the box and jam our run up, and we need to be able to open that up. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is some of that a reaction to some playoff losses too? Because obviously the runs worked great in the Nick 10, but there has been times the last few years where you guys get into the second round of the playoffs or something and face a stout defense, and all of a sudden, what becomes a 10 or 14 point deficit feels like it's so much because you just can't get that ball moving forward.
Right, and we want to be as diverse as possible. The Nick 10 is honestly, you hear this, you hear that. The competition, top teams, they're some of the toughest, that we'll see. But as you said, we see them year in and year out, and they know what we're going to do. So I'm one that likes to tweak what we do and look at our personnel and try to play into our strengths a little bit. And I think that, our offense this year is going to allow us to do that. And if something's not working, we can switch it up, and at least, it's not something brand new. It's something we practiced. And I think that that's going to put us in a better position. So ultimately our goal is, to win conference number one. But, I've thrown it out to the boys. I'm like, if we don't talk about going to state, then that's never going to happen. So that's got to be something in the back of their mind that I hope that they strive for. And I know that, that's where we'd like to take our program.
We're talking with Hononegah head football coach Brian Zimmerman, and of course in the Nick 10 you need to have a little bit of defense, and it always seems like Hononegah has some big guys up front, but they also have some good defensive backs. How's it look this year, Coach?
Well, we had what I consider to be probably one of our best defenses last season, and we returned 9 guys last year. We had I'm the D-line coach, so we returned 3 guys up front. We weren't big up front, but we were very quick, and we returned all 5 of our linebackers. In a great secondary. So we thought we played really well last season as a defense. If we would have had if our offense was very young last year, so our defense was kind of what we hung our hat on last season. But this year, everyone's like, "Oh, how's your defense going to be?" And we're confident. I don't want to use the rebuild, because we play our 3-3 stack at all 3 levels, the freshman, sophomore, and varsity level. So we've got a bunch of seniors that, I said, have been working their tail off, and they were reloading. They stepped into the role, and they know what to do. They got a little bit of time from last season, and I think we're going to be strong. There's not a lot of names right now I could throw out at you, to be quite honest. But we've got a returner in Michael Greensides at a cornerback, and Zach Bolton was one of our outside linebackers. We've got a 3-year varsity player and a nose guard, John Terry, who's had to sit behind an all-conference nose guard the last 2 years. And so we're excited. That's kind of our little bit of core returning. But we've got some juniors that are stepping up in there, and I think we're going to be solid. That's one thing we were hoping last night to be able to see a little bit more of, solidify some starting spots. But we didn't get much of an opportunity with a little bit of lightning and stuff we had last night and called the game. So we're going to find out. I tell you what, we're excited to see Freeport, and we know they're got a lot of hype about they want to make the playoffs again. So I know they're going to bring their A game. That's for sure.
Well, Coach, thanks for taking time today. We appreciate it. Good luck this year. Always fun to watch Hononegah Indian football, and it ought to be a good year. Thanks again, Coach, for being on today.
Greatly appreciate you having us on, and we look forward to a great season. Thank you much.
Mm-hmm. Brian Zimmerman, the head coach. Last year he was the co-interim head coach, so and he'll do a great job.
Yeah, I do find it interesting, though, talking about tweaking the offense, trying to throw the ball a little bit more. A lot goes into that, but we kind of talked about it there. They always seem to run into a really good defense, and they just keep trying to run the ball over and over and just don't seem to get anywhere. It's going to really help because they've had some really talented teams over the years. I think it's really going to help if they can open up that offense a little bit more and maybe find a way to scratch out, 17, 20 points when they're playing one of those really tough teams.
And they lost their return guy, Burnell. He graduated, and he was awesome.